have a sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect tonight's message, or today's message. Amen. Hola, mi nombre es Hola, mi nombre es Kofi, ¿cómo está? Bonjour, c'est Kofi, ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osaya Envike Waya, Ohio. I see you. Manut, Wagwan, Kamsa, Kamsamida, Aloha, Ciao. Bonsoir. Habarigana, Akamba, Madasi, Itise. Jambo, Mimini Kofi, in the Frankuka time of the Wewe, Boker To, Boker Town, Green Rising, Bakwata, Barakala Chubby Hava, Anai Kovai, Keda the Tomb of the Christ, Master, Lam Ki. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor of Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives, one mind at a time, being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. It is extremely early where I am, and there are others around us, so I am going to mind my volume, at least for the beginning of this. But thank you for being on. Love you all. Appreciate you. Thank you for getting up with us. Thank you for those who are coming over from Early Rise Bible Study Session, led by Elder Select and Nai's. We are excited and grateful and thankful to be in front of you one more again. We are now getting closer and closer to Passover, which is tomorrow, Pasachim. And you should see advertisements and things like that as a reminder throughout the day and throughout tomorrow. Once again, I apologize for my voice being down some. We will make sure that it increases as persons begin to move around. Over here it is a little after 5, so I am keeping my voice down just a little bit to start. So forgive me for that, but my voice carries, and I'm aware of that. So needed to make sure we got a place for signal and all that stuff, so hopefully you guys can see and hear me okay. If you notice, there's a little bit of light around me in the little gazebo that I'm in, but I will increase volume in a little bit. But welcome, Shalom, peace to everyone. Thank you for being on with us. We give all praise and honor once again to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Anna, who lives a life that is able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. If you like the fit, by the way, feel free to check out Brother Jermaine. You can reach him for some gear, for some merch, if you will, at Jermaine Insurance, JERMAINE Insurance, INSURANCE @gmail.com, and he will work with you and get with you. And thank you for those who support SOC and SOC product and all that. We're thankful and grateful. And we're going to make it a point to get this word out, get this word to you ASAP. And we're thankful once again to everybody for being on with us. So yeah, we're very appreciative of you. Thank you for being on. Reminders real quick, some announcements real quick, and then we'll get started. Today is actually a Q&A of sorts, so we'll explain how that's going to work in a second. But we're thankful to everybody for being on with us, and to those who are traveling, we hope that you guys are going to be safe in your travels. We know there's a lot of moving parts today for us, for those who are going to be here physically. Virtually, we're going to start putting out the link for Passover tomorrow evening. So you should see it on the Google Calendar invite tomorrow evening, or sometime during tomorrow, rather. You should see the Google Calendar invite for Passover virtually, so look for that. If for some reason you can't get it or you don't have it in time or something like that, please, please, sir, make it a point to contact myself, and more than likely be able to contact ministerial staff and Sister Renee as well, our secretary, with any of that. So hopefully you guys will be able to join us for that. So we'll put that out, and don't forget, tonight is our last night with the 7 last words. So I'll be on 7 p.m. New York time with a quick message and live sessions, and then after that, or with a quick live session, and then after that, we'll have our last 7 last words. And we're excited about what Trump's doing with that. If you've missed him, we have them recorded, and it's been a great message throughout. So we're thankful and grateful. Elder Select Tamara gave us a word last night that persons were speaking highly of even afterwards. Persons were talking about how Elder Select Tamara preached a mighty word last night. Was it is finished, and so tonight will be the final word, the final saying, which is, Father, into thine hands I commend my spirit. So we are excited about what God is doing, what he's doing in his word, and how the Most High Yah continues to use us over here at the SOC, and those who are part of the SOC. Praise Yah to do his will and his word and be in his way. Amen. So been a little while since we've been on in the rising for a full word. Since Tuesday in the rising, so we're back on track. I'm sorry, it's been since Monday in the rising, excuse me. So we're back on track today on Thursday. Praise Yahweh. Hopefully all has been well with everybody. If we didn't catch you anytime in between there and all the different things that have been going on, we're thankful and grateful. But boarding your flight in a few minutes. Okay, be safe. Praise Yah. Amen. Praise Yah. So hopefully it's a direct flight. Well, actually, I don't know. You might have to bounce around a little bit. I've never done any flights from Mexico or anything like that. So we're praying for safety for you. And I know you're going to be meeting up with Sister Shirley, praying for safety for you, praying for safety for those other ones who are traveling, meeting. They should be meeting this rising, at least this rising, our time as well. So we know we got a few. We got a big family traveling together over across the way as well. So we're keeping you guys lifted up in prayer. And hopefully all is well with everybody. Hopefully everybody's getting the rest they need as well, especially if you're behind the wheel. Please be safe. Praise Yahweh. And anybody going anywhere, yeah, there's no problem. Please be safe. Pray for our safety as well. We basically been right outside the city, so we're going to transfer to the city today and get to our spot and be inside some housing for the first time in a little bit. We have the RV, of course, but be inside for a few days. Praise God for that as well. An opportunity for us to rest and everybody to rest and get a chance to fellowship and all that. So we're excited. We got a few things planned. Hopefully everybody will like what's going on, and we're thankful and grateful. So, but let's say shalom to everybody, peace, and then we'll do a little brief Q&A. Once again, it's going to be Q&A. It's not a typical. Our regular Q&A session is actually on Sunday, but today we're going to do a special Q&A. We'll talk about how that works in just a little bit. And once again, you guys who've been part of Q&A, you know the Q&A is you guys lead it. So I'm going to follow your lead. So you guys let me know where you want the conversation to go. And I am prepared to do my best to answer any and all questions that come my way with the help of Ruach HaKodesh. Praise God. But let's go ahead and get into this. Let me say shalom to everybody. Peace. How you doing, Minister Tracy? How you doing, Sister Knight? How you doing, Sister Beck? Elder Select Nights. Sister Tia, Brother Dwayne. Let's see. Cole. Praise God for you. Love you, bro. I apologize. I know both of us are busy. We have to sit down and make sure we have some conversation, but know that I love you. Just know that. How you doing, Cole? How you doing? Sister Audrey Wagwan. How you doing? Randy, Arthur, Keno, Daniel, Sharon. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Nievin, Baron, Badar. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Please forgive me. How you doing, high class? All right. Hey, my wife is on the Honorable Army. How you doing, babe? Love you very much. Thank you for being on. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. How you doing, Kryptonite? This is Jennifer, Elder Select Tamara. Once again, thank you for the word. Elder Select Tamara, once again, Elder Select Nights. Thank you for putting together 7 nice words. You guys have been awesome. The messages have been awesome. How you doing, Sister Angela? Sister Angela, I don't know if you over across the way. I was thinking about it because I just realized I've been texting you, and texting probably is not working, right? So I probably need to email you. So I'm gonna try to make sure I get that together and get an email over to you. So please forgive me. But thank you for being on. I know that you've been saying that you wanted to do some stuff, so if you guys are across the way, I will do my best to try and reach out to you. This season has been very busy, especially Passover season, but thank you for being on. I've been noticing that Brother Mike's listening, other Brother Mike's listening. If anybody else's family is listening, appreciate y'all. Appreciate you. How you doing, Miss Q? How you doing, Darius? Is it Paulie? Excuse me. Paulie, Uncle Shane, Marcelin, Rhea, Triple O, Sarah, Ashes, Sister Deborah, Jake Delhomme, okay, named after the quarterback, or had the same name as the former quarterback. How you doing, Opulent? I don't know why I kept saying Opulente. I think it's Opulent, right? How you doing, Denise, Joy Boy? Como estás, mi hermana? Shea, gracias por tu presencia. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? How you doing, Sunshine? Lorita, is it? Lorita or Lorita Joy? Sister Judith, Richard, Dwayne, Carter. And if I missed anybody, charge to my head, not to my heart. We're thankful and grateful to have you all on. Bold Classic in the house. Rodney, Candace. Alrighty. Booyah. Nieva. Am I saying that close? Is it Naven? Nievan? Am I close to that? Am I in the ballpark? It takes me a minute with some of the names, especially when I've never talked to you guys before. Some of you, if I've never spoken to you, it takes me a minute, but hopefully I'm not butchering that too much. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get into, we're gonna go ahead and say our Bible pledge, and we'll get into what today's gonna be like for the Q&A, especially the Q&A session. And once again, you guys take the lead. So wherever you guys head with this is where we'll go with this. Thank you for the love. How you doing? Is it Cuz rocking with y'all? Praise God. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and say our Bible pledge. You can repeat after me. As I said, I will keep my voice down at least for a little while longer, just because it's early and my voice carries, and I am in the midst of other persons out here, just not my family. So, yeah, it's so okay. All right. Well, hopefully I'm saying it close. Nevan or Nevan. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but thank you for being on. So we're thankful and grateful. Let's go ahead and say our Bible pledge and get started. You can just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yechavach. Aman, which is in Yahweh Shem, his name, his authority. Let it be done unto us. Aman. Alrighty. So, thank you once again. So today is the day prior to Passover. Passover actually starts technically, as far as our calendar, we start in the evening. So Passover starts at 6 p.m. Your time. We'll actually start Passover 8 p.m. New York time tomorrow. So we look forward to everybody being with us. And we've been given some instruction. We've been using the evening live sessions. If you've missed them, you can look at the recordings. They're shorter than normal. And to tell everybody how to get ready for Passover, what you should have, giving instructions on how it's set up. Those, by the way, over in England, I'm going to try to reach out to you guys today, see if we can set up something tomorrow, special just for you guys at a specific time, so we can at least give you guys a Passover message, if nothing else. How you doing, Brother Javon? Was just thinking about you, actually. Hope all is well with you and your family and your household. Well, so this is how the Q&A is going to start today. So we're going to do Passover Q&A. If persons have questions about Passover, about what that means Passover from, when we came out of Kemet, or how persons would have done Passover every year, not just recently, not just the one time that persons focus on it in the Bible, but also in between Yahshua dying on Passover, giving up the ghost, and also no. I'll answer it though because I hadn't had a chance to address it. So we're going to take Passover Q&A, right? So today's going to be Passover. If you have questions, comments, and concerns concerning it. If not, if we start to run out of questions, of course, we can feel free to go ahead and go into other stuff. But today we're going to focus on Passover. So we're going to kind of have two Q&As. I would like today to focus on Passover because I feel like if we wait till tomorrow, that might be too late for some of us to try and figure out certain things. So at least we'll give you 24 hours, a little over 24 hours actually, somewhere around 36 hours or so to try and get stuff together. So if you have questions, or if you are like, hey, if somebody asks me a question about Passover, whatever the case might be, that's what we're gonna kind of focus on today. How you doing, Brother Richard? How you doing, Morgan Lay? So, but no problem. But we'll have our actual Q&A, like where everything is on the table on Sunday. But I'd like to focus today on that. Nevertheless, once again. So just real quick, since you asked though, before I got a chance to go there, is it true that your wedding ring should be worn on the right hand? So a wedding ring per se, if we're talking about culturally speaking, the wedding ring is a Western phenomenon, but not a bad one. Now, there's stuff that comes along with persons when they ask about a wedding ring, right? For example, um, persons will say to you, they'll go, well, when it comes to a wedding ring, what is it that, they'll be like, well, if you wear it on your left hand, you wear it like the Roman way, and the Romans used to wear it on the finger because they thought that finger was attached to your heart. There'll be other person that say, well, it's pagan because pagan persons wore it. The ring itself, as far as it being a family dynamic or a family custom, how you doing, Sister Kimberly? Wearing a ring itself is actually something that's very much so cultural, especially when you became a family that could afford to have a ring. The ring is something that basically is something of affluence, right? That's why even when you have today, right, like your wedding ring as a wife speaks volumes, right? Matter of fact, the way they do it in their culture, your engagement ring means speaks volumes, right? And then your wedding band is supposed to be the one that's not as gaudy or as flashing, right? But your wedding ring speaks volumes, right? But as far as biblically speaking, or the culture of the ones who wrote the Bible, Israelite culture, the ring is something that's used to say who the family is. It's also used like as a credit card or purchase, right? So whenever you see these scrolls and it says the scroll was sealed, what you'll discover is that the ring, basically is that they have. Matter of fact, at some point, I'd like to get some like that for my family in the future. But you come up with a family insignia or family symbol, family crest, even if you will, and you take that, and whenever you go somewhere, somebody knows you even just by the ring, right? Servants of the house, if you're somebody who has enough to where you can employ persons, because we didn't have slave servants or indentured servants, so they were servants of your house. They might go somewhere and they put their ring, on somewhere, they can put it out, or even a lot of times like you've seen in movies where somebody might press it in wax, and then put the wax on the scroll that seals the scroll. Somebody might also do that to make sure that it's known that you can put it on somebody's credit, whatever you're getting. So the wife of the house might go and her husband has, his name of his family on the ring. And so that family pays for things with their credit because their credit name is different than credit now. They say you have great credit by going into debt. How would you pay for debt? But back then, kind of sort of similar, but you're not really in debt. You already have a certain amount of money, right, that you've already paid certain persons. So the wife or a servant or a child or whoever, or even a husband sometimes might go to the marketplace, and they go and somebody's like, oh, if they don't recognize you, usually they would, but if they don't recognize the wife or whoever's going, or the wife who's going around with persons to help her to carry whatever they want to take home, somebody might go, oh, okay, I see a ring, that's the Ofori ring, and so the Ofori ring, no problem, and they would see that, and they would stamp it, or they would see it and they would write down, okay, this person took this much today, and we take that out of their credit, right? If the person doesn't have a certain amount of credit, then the person might say, okay, well, you're running out, and they go, and it was like actually a real bad place, because then that means you're in debt. So it's like, if you take this, just know you're in debt. And the person will be, oh, my fault, and they would like make sure they might pay you right then, or go immediately to the husband and be like, hey, why are we, you're behind on this, make sure that you have blah, blah, right? Which we see some of today, right? Same thing as far as some family dynamics. We're like, hey, why is this behind? I just went to do this and I couldn't use my phone. Or I went to do this and there wasn't stuff in my card, or I went this, blah, blah, different things like that. So that was a dynamic. So the ring was multifaceted and multi-purposed. It wasn't just only saying that you belong one to another and that you're one, which is a very important part. But that's what the ring was for. So in our culture. So as far as it being on the right hand or the left hand, one could surmise that most persons probably wore it on the right hand, because usually right hand in the culture, especially when you start getting into Northern Africa, even West Africa, if you even look at what they call the so-called Middle East, which is basically North Africa again, persons of that culture would have more than likely worn it on their right hand. Do we know which finger they would have worn it on? Probably not. To be honest with you, they probably would have even had it on their middle finger, but we don't know, right? 100% certain, and there wasn't really a law or a principle. There was something probably more customary, but we have no clue. Hey, how you doing, Sister Sage? Praise y'all. Thank you for being on. How you doing, Culture Prosper? How you doing, Brother Jermaine? So that's kind of dealing with that. But today is special. Now, we can turn. I don't mind taking on any and all questions. I just want to make this a point to say that today is Q&A for Passover once again. So if you have whatever questions you like, I will try to get to them, and I will probably prioritize Passover questions, and I want to make sure that we just have as many of them as on here, since Passover is tomorrow. And so a lot of you have done Passover with us for a little while now, or at least heard us talk about it over and over and over again. Whether you've done it with us virtually or physically, you've done Passover with us. So we're going to do Passover together. We talked about the setup. We're going to talk about the final phase of the setup. We talked in the evening sessions. We've been talking about this. So we talked about the lamb. We talked about the bread. We talked about the herbs and stuff like that. We'll talk about the wine. I don't know how much. We might need to talk a little bit more about the bread, to be honest. So maybe we'll talk about that during this, because I know we spent more time on the herbs and the lamb. We did mention the bread and what it means, though. And why it was so quickly done and everything, and why we do it that way still to this day. But so if anybody has any questions, today's Q&A. If you have questions about Passover, feel free to ask those questions. If you have questions that are outside of Passover, feel free. But once again, you guys take the lead up. I just wanted to let it be known that this is an opportunity. Feel free to go ahead and pick my brain, if you will, or I don't know. I know that's a crazy saying. I'll try to find another saying at some point. But if you'd like to be able to, ask questions, especially from a cultural perspective and through a proper biblical lens, an Israelite lens, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Feel free to go ahead and ask those questions. How you doing, Just Josh? You see Stranger Motivation. I missed somebody who came on here too, by the way. Somebody who's just who's a new, looks like somebody who's a new follower, so to speak. Talking about it calls you a follower on TikTok. So I did miss somebody. How you doing, Candace Light? I missed somebody. My apologies. How you doing, Smile Fitness by Trace? Or by Treese. Excuse me, probably by Treese, right? I feel like I missed somebody who came in here. So forgive me to the person. I saw somebody that said that you were following on TikTok. So whoever the person is, please forgive me. Hopefully your name pops up again and I'll be able to say welcome to you. How you doing, Sour Fox? Barbecue Show. Alrighty. So any questions, comments, or concerns? We'd like them to be focused on Passover, but if there's none about Passover, feel free to ask away. Today's a special Q&A just for you, but we're going to open up the floor. If persons have questions about Passover, if I don't see any questions real quick, I can start to talk about the difference between Passover and Easter. But before I do that, we will talk about Easter on Easter Sunday. We don't celebrate Easter Sunday, but we will make sure to talk about it, because we know that this person's listening who have questions about the difference between the two, and why we even do Ishtar or Easter, if you haven't heard us talk about it. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Today's Q&A. If not, I'm going to go ahead and get... Oh, I'm sorry. You did ask about the spinach. So spinach, I mean, I guess if you kind of bitter, I don't know. I don't know if Elder Alma is on. Babe, if you're on, I know she's, it's really early for us, and we had a late night last night. I'm getting over here. We're getting back over here. But, but if she's on, I don't know. So for me, I still haven't really found anything that talks about spinach as bitters. I know there's certain spinach that is more bitter than others. And so certain strains of it. So I guess spinach would count as a bitter. I'm not 100% sure. Still, I looked it up, and I even looked it up this rising a little bit too. I didn't have that much time, but I didn't really, I didn't really see. Well, yeah, a herb basically almost every what they call vegetation. Pretty much almost everything is a herb, for the most part. There's new definitions coming out every day, but as far as my comprehension is, anything. Except for mushrooms, maybe. If you take mushrooms out, mushrooms are considered to kind of be their own thing. But herbs are kind of like, as far as I comprehend, bark of a tree is a herb. It's so pretty much everything like that's growing. Vegetation, vegetables is not even a real thing either. Vegetables is a word, or vegetables is a word that persons came up with to try and actually talk about how you prepare herbs. So it's another culture's way of saying when you cut the herb up, that's actually what a vegetable is, or vegetable. So but when I say vegetation, most persons know what I mean by that. So herbs, as far as I know, are kind of just a overall way of saying vegetation. Now herbology or herbology, but we pronounce the character. So herbology actually has is dealing with the study of them, right? And then a herbologist is one who's proficient at not only the study of it, but then also you can talk about a herbalist. A herbalist is proficient at herbs, like the usage of them as well. So you said you read the longer it's cooked, the more bitterness. Okay. Well, and so it could be probably considered to be, I don't know if they consider it to be a bitter, but I guess, yeah, if you're going by that, like technically, now, I wouldn't use it for Passover, but I guess even technically, see, this is when we start having like certain ones that we just say kind of use these are the safest, like, sage and rosemary and arugula and dandelion and certain things like that. But even technically, like chocolate is a bitter. If you're gonna have chocolate, especially if you're gonna try to use it for Passover, it can't be sweet at all. So we're not talking about like 70% bitter. Like you gotta have the actual 100% chocolate, right? Like that whole, like I like 60, 70%ish, but I like bitter. So I'll eat bitter. I can go back and forth between bitter and sweet all day, but I prefer bitter. Actually, if I'm given a choice, I'll eat something bitter before I'll eat something that's sweet. So there's a bunch of, technically chocolate is a herb, right? And if you were to eat the herb without the sugar, then it is something that is bitter. You have wormwood and stuff like that as well. We were talking a lot about wormwood last night. So there's a bunch of bitters that are out there if you were to look up some, especially if you're going to try and buy some for tomorrow. But if you're going to do, that one was a doozy. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, yeah, I guess you could say chocolate is a bitter, but it's like you got to make sure you put out there, it's got to be an actual 100% chocolate bar, not chocolate and this, not a Twix. What's some of my vices that I used to have? Not a Twix, not a Reese's, not a Kit Kat, not an Almond Joy. But those, that's got to be a straight up chocolate, right? Yeah. So. It's got to be something that's a bitter, right? So it's got to be something that's a herb, the way that you would get it. Remember, you want it to be wholly from the land, right? You want it to be the way that Yah, as close to as what Yah intended, and that's the goal with it. So yeah, you want it to be a so-called veggie or vegetable or vegetable. You want it to be something like that, but it's got to be a bitter herb, right? It's important, not just herbs, a bitter herb. And we do the same thing to bring back to our remembrance what we did on Passover day. Come on? All right. But it's starting to get a little light. Praise God. The sun is coming up. It is a little cold out here. So thankful for that. How you doing tomorrow? Is it tomorrow day, love? You said there are bitter greens. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, I didn't think about radishes, too. Radishes, but yeah, like you said, arugula. I forget what... I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. I forget. I know I've seen it before with what is Endive? Endive? Please forgive me. I don't remember what it is. I know I've seen it before. I know I've had it before. I just don't recall what it is. But anyways, yeah. So, and even if you go to certain stores, I'd say like if you guys go to have a farmer's market or something, especially around this time, or if you go to farmers markets in Jewish neighborhoods, because unfortunately we don't have a lot of our people that are carrying this stuff yet. But if you were to go to like a farmer's market, how you doing, Anthony? If you were to go to a farmer's market, something like that, you would discover that they have, they'll even have a bunch of bitters in the same section. So, especially around this time, because persons are looking for them heavy. So if you were to go somewhere, if you can find the sage, if you can find the rosemary and stuff like that, you'll find a bunch of bitters right next to each other. You said it's supposed to be actually the lamb. Is it supposed to be actually the lamb be eaten? No sides. So it's supposed to be lamb. Lamb, bitter herbs, matzah. And that's it. And once again, you're not eating it to get full. So don't worry about, unless you got a big family and stuff like that. You even if you recall what we talked about yesterday, it's escaping me. Exodus chapter I can't remember the chapter off the top of my head. We went to it yesterday talking about something else. Um, but when you eat, the commandment is when you eat the lamb, make sure I get this correct. Um, well, basically, it talks about how the lamb has to be cooked. The lamb can't be boiled. It says it cannot be sodden and not be sodden in water that needs to be boiled. The lamb is not supposed to have any blood in it, right? Because it's a sacrifice. So the same way, like, by the way, if you don't realize this, whatever animal you eat, whenever you eat any meal, is considered to be a sacrifice. Right, small bites and how to sit down there, right? So any animal that you eat is considered to be a sacrifice. We were talking about that the other evening. How you doing, Sister Barbara? Praise God for you. Hopefully you continue to get better and feel better. So anytime you sit down to break bread, so to speak, it's supposed to be a sacrifice, right? Okay, oregano too. Thank you. Oregano, chives, bitters. Yeah, I guess so. Chives be considered to be bitters, stuff like that. But yeah, so we're talking about these different things. Praise y'all. Glad you're doing great. So when we're talking about these different things, we're speaking on it's a sacrifice. So just like the Passover will become a sacrifice, if you recall, for Passover, the lamb itself is a sacrifice. Right? So the lamb itself is a sacrifice. Okay, thank you. So chives are just onions, basically, so they can be, and onions can be used because onions they count as a bitter, for sure. Right? You smell it different than not only we smell it in the wrong way, not only would it taste bitter, but it'll make you have some bitter emotions, right, so to speak. But yeah, so but yeah, anytime you eat, it's considered to be a sacrifice. And if you recall, in the commandment that Yahweh gives us as a people, and Moses relays to us, we are told specifically, hey, the elders were even told, it was a big deal in all of our camp, that hey, when you eat this, when you go through this, when you do this, whatever, you're going to sacrifice the lamb, and all the blood should be poured out of the lamb, and you should take some of the blood and put it on the doorpost, right? But the lamb itself should be roasted. And we talked about yesterday, roasted over fire is the goal. If all you got is an oven, you know, especially if it's a gas one and you're talking about fire being used, that's a little more closer. If it's an electric oven, that's all you got, okay, so be it. If you're somebody that has to do some other things, you know, I guess people are getting into air fryers and doing some stuff, but it's not supposed to be fried, right? That's kind of like boiling it, sodding, right? The goal, even though it's an air fryer, but the goal is to roast it. Some of you said that you're going to use it. We might even use, we used one last year when we were in Florida, in Beverly Hills, Florida, right? We used the person who allowed us to be at their place and opened up their land for us to be able to use for everybody who came last year physically. We used the grill, right? And so as long as it's roasted over a fire, that's fine, right? That's the goal is to roast it over a fire if you can, right? So yeah, so you're supposed to do that, and the only thing that goes with it, so you have lamb on your plate, right, roasted, well done, if can be, or pretty close to well done, just making sure, hey, there's no blood, right, can't be any blood, we're not supposed to eat the blood of animals, but this is a sacrifice, and so remember, the sacrifice must be completely consumed. So if you have any extra, as we talked about yesterday, any extra stuff, it means that it's got to be thrown away. If you recall, right, it's got to be thrown away. Really, technically, it's supposed to be burned. Maybe you're not in a position to where you can burn what you have left over, but everything is supposed to be done. So there's not supposed to be any bones, right? And if you know somebody who can't burn this stuff, then you need to make sure that it's at least out of your house. If you can't get it off your property or off your land, it needs to be, out of your house, right? It can't be in your house at all. If it's in your house, then it's not a sacrifice, right? Just like when we talk about remove the leaven, which is supposed to be done by tomorrow for Passover too. But we're supposed to make sure that that stuff is off the property, out of the house, right? And then we're supposed to do, and so, but anything for Passover, right? We have 1 year where we did Passover in South Carolina in a hotel, and once we finished with stuff. We couldn't burn it there. That was the first year that I couldn't burn it. So what we did was we took it out. You know, we got everything in the trash. We took it out of the trash can, and we made sure that we went to the trash bin that was the furthest away that we were allowed to use, so that it would be away from us, right? But anything that was open, and the way we do this is like this: anything that's open, okay? So if you have matzah, you know, if you buy the matzah boxes, if you're not making the matzah bread or whatever, you're not making unleavened bread, but you have some unleavened bread left over, but you didn't open the box, that's not considered to be like you opened it to eat or whatever, right? If you have, technically, well, you know what, I was going to try to give an excuse for the wine, because I know persons, you know, want to hold on to that, all right? You're not supposed to drink the wine. Don't get drunk now, because that's a sin. Right? That being said, if you have wine and it's been opened and used, it's supposed to be a sacrifice, right? A sacrifice. You remember David, the God, he said, I won't give anything to Yahweh unless it costs me something, right? So you talk about a sacrifice. I know a lot of persons, a lot of times we don't even talk about what sacrifice is, but you might have to sacrifice. If you have any bitter herbs left and you're like, man, you know, I'd like to use this. If you had them presented and they were ready and you opened them up, or you know, you got them and you had them specifically to be used for Passover, or you brought them to the table, so to speak. That's kind of a rule that we have, a rule of thumb. If you have it on the counter, some persons don't like that, so we go, if you bring it to the table and it's not used, it's supposed to be a sacrifice, everything on that table. Some persons even go, I don't go this far. Some persons go as far as to even burning up the tabletops. You know, not the tabletops, but why am I having a moment with this? Somebody help me out. The table covering, the table, whatever. I don't know why I'm having a problem with that word. But some persons even go as far as that. Anything that was used, they're like, it's got to go. They'd be like, hey, cups, got to go. There's that tablecloth, thank you. So, hey, how you doing, Sister Sabrina? And if the two baby girls are listening, how y'all doing? So that's something that we have to look at as a sacrifice. So don't forget that part of it. Is that everything? Thank you, Sister Sheena. And how you doing? How you doing, Darius? Thank you again. Everything that's on the table, that's food, especially has to go. How you doing, Sister Beverly? Praise y'all. Barak, blessings to you. Barak, my shipachin to you and the family, of course, to you and Sister Barbara. So everything that's on there has got to go. Everything, it's got to go, right? Everything that we're using, technically, but especially the food itself, all of it is supposed to be, put on an altar, so to speak, and burned. It has to be totally consumed. Anytime you give anything a sacrifice, which is one of the reasons why in our culture, wasting food is a big deal. Now, you don't have to do this every time you eat, right? But for Passover specifically, the throwing away part is definitely a big deal. But if you notice, even like with the manna, or the manna, meaning what is it? That bread that fell from heaven. Yah said you only should gather what you're going to use for one day, right? If you try to gather more than that, something's up. And that used to be a big piece of things. Now we've gotten more technology, and so persons will try to say, well, with technology, we should have changed this. We should go ahead and keep. A lot of persons buy a whole bunch, and I get it, because maybe you don't have the time to do what we used to do, which is every day you got to go get what you're going to eat. Or if you're going to store it, it's not stored so easily. You still got to prepare and go through a long stuff. A lot of persons might not have that option, because especially being in the land of our captivity, your job schedule and stuff like that, or even your work schedule might have you off something, right? So it is understandable why persons are using those things. But for Passover, anything that's for Passover, got to be thrown away, right? Anything for Passover, it's supposed to be thrown away bare minimum. If you can, it's supposed to be burned. Last year we actually burned, everything the way that we normally do in my family. We burned everything on the altar. We actually kind of built the altar last year. We had like a nice little pit, and then everybody just threw everything on the pit. And even though it was a bunch of different things, like persons actually said, if you guys recall, they were like, man, it smells sweet, like a sweet savior, right? Like it actually, that's part of like a really amazing piece of it, is like all the stuff actually kind of gives a nice little smell of it, like, and you get the context of it, like we hope that this is sweet smelling savor unto thy nostrils, right? Like it's a it really brings you into the culture, into the remembrance of things. So if you're able to do that, that might be a little far. But yeah, so the lamb's supposed to be prepared. Um, um, the matzah bread, you know, and even the matzah that most persons buy, we use it a lot of times. To be honest, it's, you know, it's probably even better if you can, if you know how to make unleavened bread. There's videos out there. Elder Alma might do something where, you know, that she puts a video out, or maybe even might make some to go along with what we have. So we might, if she does that, I might, you know, put it out there real quick during the day or something if y'all want to make it along with her. I don't know the time though, so I don't know if that's even something that's guaranteed. I know that's something she mentioned, so maybe we'll do something like that too if you want to follow. So she actually has a pretty simple one where what it's basically almost, if you will, a vegan matzah bread. So it's not even that many. I think it's 3 ingredients, 4 if you include water or something like that, where you can make some unleavened bread, right? So she's done that before and shown some things. How you doing, Sister Shirley? Be safe as you get ready to go on your travels. I believe you're probably on your way to, or if not, you're already at the airport, so you be careful on your travels and stuff. I know that somebody, that Sister Tia was boarding, so praying that you guys make it safely. Oh, no, you're leaving later. So be safe on your travels, though. I'll be checking in with you as best I can throughout the day. Let's see how you doing into the deep. So yeah, so tomorrow is Passover. We're doing Passover Q A, by the way. If you have other questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to let them go. But I'm going to prioritize Passover questions today, and the reason being that we got about 36 hours or so before Passover, and therefore I feel, you know, like we should take time out to answer some questions. And if person's want to get stuff set up, or you want to go to the store, pick something up, whatever the case might be, or somebody asks you a question, somebody maybe even you might be invited to Passover. By the way, if you invite somebody to Passover, or you want somebody to come on virtually with us, if they're not with you, feel free to invite whoever you want to invite, and we'd love to be able to say Shalom to them and all that, and have them enjoy it. Just make sure they comprehend the culture of it, and remember too, we're being very careful with that link that we're putting out with the Zoom link, so that persons aren't continuing to do some of the wild stuff they've done in times past with our meetups and stuff. So on them, so just please be careful with that. We won't put the Zoom link out until tomorrow, but I'm not putting it out in all the places that we normally do, because we've had an issue with that, right? This year, the year of a safe place, that includes on Zoom, right? So we're going to be careful with that. So if the person's not SOC and they're being brought on, they need to just, you know, please make sure that they comprehend, you know, that we need them to be obedient to that. If they don't like the term obedient, we need them to be empathetic to our culture, bare minimum, and respect it if they can, especially because this is a holy of holy days, right? This is outside of the Day of Atonement. This is probably the most serious day. They're all serious, but this is probably the most serious and solemn days. This one is not as solemn as I said, Day of Atonement, but serious and solemn day for us. How you doing, Sister David? So if they're coming on, I just want to put that out there. No shade towards anybody. We appreciate it. I love the fact that persons have been inviting more persons. Continue to bring them on. I'm meeting family members and stuff, and talking to persons and stuff. And we're on this trip now, so we're going to hopefully meet more of you, especially those of you in Texas, and those of you in Tennessee more than likely, and those of you in Georgia hopefully as well. But yeah, you said you weren't able to afford normal Passover meal. How else could you give worship? Well, then you do the best that you can. If you're not able to do, now once again, I want to help out with this too. So remember, this is not something that has to be gaudy, right? Remember, they're getting Israel is getting ready to leave. They don't have time to even set up something so gaudy, right? You know, so remember, we're not eating this to get full, right? We're not eating this to get full. Somebody said, why are you eating? Well, this is about Passover. Remember, Paul said, if you're hungry, first eat at home. You know, if many of you are coming to have a whole, full, huge meal and try to do all this extra, he said, and so many of you are eating and drinking damnation unto yourself. Well, not just because of that, but because you don't have your relationship correct either. But you know, there's certain things that are there. So as far as, you know, but you do your best. If you don't have lamb, you know, do the best that you can. Maybe if you have pieces of chicken or something. Maybe if you have, and if it's a thing of, you know what, contact me after the live session. If it's a thing as far as you just need something for lamb or whatever, you know, we can help with that. You know, making sure that you just get, you know, even if it's a piece of lamb, you know, it can be a decent cut or whatever, but even if it's just getting a piece of lamb and making sure that you can have, you know, you can literally pick a bidder around you, find a place where something's there, or you know, go to the store and get something bitter. You know, we were even talking about spinach. Technically, I guess the longer you cook it, supposedly the more bitter it gets or something. You know, even if it's something like that, put something like that on the plate. And unleavened bread. I mean, you can find. I'm not trying to always market another culture, but it is what it is. You can find a Jewish store that probably has some unleavened bread, or you can make some unleavened bread. Like I said, maybe you can even contact Elder Alma, and she can give you a quick recipe or something. But we do the best that we can, you know. But if it's something as simple as that, you know, especially for you, Sister Kimberly, you know what you and your family mean to us. You know, we have a little bit of extra, you know, left, and it looks like we have everything taken care of as far as on this end. So, you know, if we need to send a couple dollars, if other persons at SOC might want to help, send a couple of dollars or whatever your way. You know, we can help out with that. So don't worry about that. But yeah, if for some reason somebody can't, or if for some reason we're not able to make that happen, I think that shouldn't be a problem. But if for some reason we're not able to make it happen, one of the things that we could, you know, you could easily do the best you can. I would say more than likely, I guess lamb. Chicken is probably, I said chicken first, but I guess if you have beef, maybe you would use beef probably as closer to lamb. If you don't have beef, then maybe you use chicken or whatever, but you can use something in its place. The goal is to have, but once again, if you're without it, so let me put it like this. I'll let you make a decision. Some persons will say this. I've heard, because we've had this conversation, I've had this conversation with other persons who are stewards of the word and leaders and stuff like that, and persons who have been doing this for decades. It has come up before. Somebody might not have anything. I mean, there's persons that are homeless, you know, that have done Passover with us, right? There's an argument that goes back and forth. There are some persons that say, if you don't have it, just fast, because it's best not to eat something you're not supposed to eat on that day. There's persons who, and I'm on this side of it, I'm like, just feel like do the best you can. Obviously don't have pork in place of the lamb. But we don't really have, I don't think, I could be wrong on this. Somebody might have to research this, study this, and see, you know, what the case is. But, so I could be wrong about what I'm about to say. I don't believe there is a scripture that gives us a backup for what we can eat. So that's why I could see somebody being like, maybe we just shouldn't, if we can't afford whatever, maybe we shouldn't just have any of it. But, so I can see that argument, by the way. That's why I'm just telling the truth. Oh, well, lamb or goat, which is true, because, so you could do goat, true, but lamb is preferred, right? Put it like that, like lamb. So when they say sacrificial lamb, the reason why they do lamb or goat, well, no, that's not true. I'm about to tell a fib. Let me say it's correct. Holy Spirit, help me say it's correct. Okay, so a lot of persons don't know that lamb and goat are interchangeable. Also, too, because a lot of persons, they raise lambs and goats together. Now, right, so some persons didn't have lamb, so they would use a baby, you know, I'm not talking about a child, because a child is actually a child. We use a weird word for him because of some Baphomet type stuff and persons who worship different things in other cultures, so you call your children kids. A kid is a baby goat. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not saying your children or anything, but there are some persons who say you can use a kid instead, and the Bible does say you can use that. So you can in fact do goat, a baby, but if you're gonna do it, you have to go by the law, right? That's why it's lamb. It's not just sheep. It's not just mutton, right? It's lamb, right? Representing innocence, stuff like that. Or if you're gonna do a goat, it should be a kid or a offspring of a goat, a baby goat, if you will, right? So, but the lamb is what we're really going for. And back then, you know, we would have had access, because even though we were slaves, we would have still had access to being shepherds. Shepherd persons were considered to be poor persons in a lot of cultures. So we always were allowed to continue to have sheep. It wasn't the same as chattel slavery. We actually had access to a lot of food. So we were mistreated very much so. right? It's still slavery, but it wasn't on the level of chattel slavery. Chattel slavery is multiplied even from what you're reading in the Bible. When somebody would say, wow, that seems like a lot. Yeah, that chattel slavery was way worse than what you read about the slavery of the Bible. Yep. The Kemet versus Israelites. It was a whole different mindset, right? It wasn't just because you're black, because both of us look the same, right? Israel and Kemet, they look the same, right? They were already married into each other. Remember, Joseph was already married into him, and then there's generations by generations. By the time Moses comes back, you're talking about. By the way, Moses looked like he was in the house of Pharaoh as well. We looked like each other, right? And we were getting closer back then. We're much closer to creation than now, which means you don't have as much diversity of man either. So there would be a lot of stuff but anyway, so you can, in fact, thank you for making that, saying that, because I don't say that, I barely say that at all. You can, in fact, use a goat, and even for Day of Atonement, sometimes it would use 2 lambs, 2 goats, or a lamb and a goat, right? Which is where you get the sheep and the goat. So once we started doing it, and on our own in our culture, we kind of settled into eventually having a sheep and a goat for stuff like the Day of Atonement. But for Passover, the goal is to try and get the lamb if you can, right? If not, it has to be a kid or a baby goat, right? And which is a baby goat. Let me be careful with that. It is a baby goat, right? And so you have a baby sheep or a baby goat, and you take that and you use that to be the sacrifice. But I'm somebody who says if you can't afford that, if you take something that cannot be pork. And it can't be stuff that breaks the dietary laws, right? Can't be shellfish, can't be, any of that stuff. Can't be squid and stuff like that. Any of that stuff. It has to be, basically beef or chicken or goat are safe. Outside of that, you get into some stuff that, maybe so, but it's kind of, we're kind of stretching it a little bit. But I would say, try your best to get the lamb. But if you need help with the lamb, once again, Sister Kimberly, especially since you're the one that brought it up, if you need help with it, just reach out to me, remind me, because I might forget. And feel free to let me know, because if it's just you need some help making sure that you get lamb, we can do that. That's not a problem, right? But yeah, so if you want lamb, and then if you want a recipe for unleavened bread, we got that too. Okay, matter of fact, somebody just let me know. All right, so I know that person is in the chat. If you guys want to send help for them, you can as well. But somebody just let me know in the chat that you're taken care of. Okay, so you're fine. Don't even worry about it. Okay, so Sister Kimberly, if you can, and if that person too, who just let me know, you know who you are. If you can just let me know, remind me or whatever, or I guess I'll look for it. Possibly, I've got a lot of stuff to do, but somebody can just remind me. Look to see somebody's donation for that, and we'll make sure that we take care of that. All right, so praise God. So there you go. Right. That's why we say asking. What does the Bible say? Asking, you shall receive. Such as we have, we give unto thee, right? So, praise God. Somebody has, and they said you're taken care of. So, there you go. But now that the question's been broached, see Q&A can lead to blessings. That's why we should do more of this, right? Or we should have person doing more Q&A. We do a lot of Q&A here. We say you take herbs soaked in oil, lay on top of the lamb and roast it during the ceremony. I take a bit of each item. I don't like lamb. Then you're done. Yeah, there's some persons that roast the stuff on there. As far as, I'm just be honest, as far as biblically, it seems like you're supposed to roast the lamb by itself and have a bit of herbs to the side, but I'm not going to hold you. There are persons, because we are seasoned people, there are a lot of persons who try to use it as seasoning. I guess I can't say with 100% certainty. I would say that I lean more towards the herbs are supposed to be bitter, right? For a reason. You're supposed to kind of taste the bitterness like we talked about last night, and the lamb's supposed to be kind of separate, and they're separate. You have them all on the same plate. If you eat them at the same time, it's different. But, I'll leave that one, I guess, to you. I would say it seems like the word is saying kind of more, make sure that the lamb is supposed to be kind of separate and the herbs are presented, and the matzah is presented, and the wine is presented, and each one meaning something as we eat them. But we'll see that there. Can you use salt? Salt is, see, persons get, here's when I get said, it's salt. No, salt is salty, right? Salt's not bitter. I mean, I guess if you have a bunch of heat in your mouth of it, is salt bitter? I don't know. See, we had to say, can we bake the lamb? Yeah, if you have to put it in the oven, the goal is to roast it. So if you had to put it in the oven, that's the best that you have. Once again, we do the best that we can. How you doing, Negro Esther? Thanks for being on. Shalom to you. You said first year you roasted it over parsney, but you like to separately taste each thing. Yeah, that's supposed to be the goal. That's supposed to be the goal. But once again, I'm not going to hold you. I'm going to tell you the truth. There are persons who put it all together and stuff like that. And I guess because certain bitter herbs, you put them together, they kind of, if you get the right combination of bitter, it actually can taste really nice and stuff like that. I'm just, so like I said, I'm not going to hold you and act like there's not anybody I've ever seen do that or anything. I've known persons doing that since I started doing this. And wow. I think the first Passover I did outside of a Seder, so Seder is the Jewish version of it, but outside of a Seder, which is where I heard about those and somebody told me to start researching there, but doing them with the community, I think the first time I've done one in life was 2010-ish, 2011-ish, somewhere in there. So, but yeah, so I've known for a while that there's persons who do it that way. But we would suggest, doesn't mean you have to follow the suggestion, but I'm saying as far as my comprehension of what the word says, seems like you're supposed to do a second. Am I? Okay, yeah, as far as salt, I don't think salt is a bitter. Yeah, sorry about that, I kind of skipped around again. I don't believe salt is a bitter. Doesn't mean that it's not. I don't think that salt is a bitter. I don't think it's considered to be a bitter herb. So, yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's not considered to be a bitter. Great question. Thank you for. There's no bad questions, by the way. That's why we have Q&A. Feel free to ask and feel free, to say whatever if you agree, disagree, whatever the case might be. And if you're joining us, praise God for the first Passover. Praise God, the bitter truth. There you go, right? If you're joining us right now, if you're watching this recording later on, even if you'd like to put something in the chat, I do try to get to questions or things that you guys put in the chat later on, or put in the chat discussion. I do try to get to those, even if you're listening on the recording. So feel free to ask questions if you have some. Do we have a list of bitters? So we do. And actually, we've been oh, wow. I don't know. You guys give me a second. TikTok, you're going to freeze up for a second. Maybe like a couple. Well, you know what? You're going to freeze up for a second. Right? Just give me a second. I might have. So we started putting out our newsletter, monthly newsletter. For you all in different places. You can find it on YouTube right now in the community section of our page. And started putting out other places. I might send it via text or might make sure it's on WhatsApp. It's on Facebook, the Facebook group as well, I believe. If you go on the Facebook group, you should be able to find it. It's on my personal Facebook page. If you're a Facebook friend of mine as well, you should be able to see it in those two places. We're going to keep putting it in different places, including on TikTok. But if you look there on one of the pages, I want to make sure I put it on here. That's what I'm saying when I say hold up again. Just give me a second. I'm going to try and make sure it fits on the screen properly. If it doesn't fit on the screen, you're going to have to give me a second to go off screen and figure it out. But we do have the newsletter ready. And we've been sending it out. And in the newsletter, one of the pages talks about the list. Yeah, I'm going to have to make it smaller. And let me see. Celebrating Passover. At least unless I didn't download that one, that page, I'm pretty sure we have a list of herbs somewhere. If it's not, I'm gonna have to find it. Yeah, I'm gonna turn this page around. and YouTube, if I find it, I'm gonna make it a point. But give me a second. I believe one of the pages, and thank you to Elder Alma and Elder Selecta Nice and Sister Austria who put in work for these newsletters to be correct and to be awesome and authentic and SOC related and driven. Let me see. Okay, yeah, so this has something on there. You guys can see. It doesn't have, so we have lamb, unleavened bread, and bitter herbs. Okay, no, this isn't the full list. This isn't the full list. So on here we have rosemary. That's the one I forget all the time. We have rosemary, thyme, right? Or a lot of persons just say thyme. But rosemary, thyme, basil. I always forget how to pronounce this. Elder Select Tamara put this up earlier. Indive, I don't know how to pronounce it. I know what it. I kind of know what it is. Parsley as well. I always forget parsley. Parsley's like the easy one. I don't know why I struggle with talking about parsley. Parsley. We've also mentioned you have dandelion, which you can do dandelion root to the dandelion, whatever, or the flower. Even I enjoy the flower and even the whole dandelion, even the part that has the spores. But you have the dandelion. We talked about what's some other ones we talked about today. The one we talked about last night for the bitter herbs in Revelation chapter 8. You guys have to correct me because I've been saying Revelation 6 for like a couple years probably now. That's the wrong place. Revelation 8, 11. What did we talk about? Where it says that it'll be wormwood, watercress. Okay, thank you. Endive. Okay, endive. Thank you. Endive. So endive is the way it's pronounced. Endive is the way it's spelled. Watercress. I guess spinach if it's cooked through or the more it's cooked. I don't know the process that it's talking about cooking it through, but I guess if it's cooked through with a certain process, then it becomes more bitter. We already said dandelion was another one. Arugula, right? Onions can be considered a bitter. Something else Elder Select Tamara said earlier too, and I forgot about. I see it in my head. Radishes are considered to be bitters as well. So those things can be listed. I don't know if somebody can help me out in the chat because the device that I'm on, it won't allow me to type it in. But I'll try to go through those again real quick. Horseradish, parsley. Bitter salad greens. Yeah, I don't know what that is because somebody asked about a salad mix. I guess I don't know what's in bitter salad green mix because it might mean that not all of it is bitter, right? But they have bitter things in it. I'm assuming. Once again, please forgive me. I know what they say about persons who assume. I don't know, right? Such as, sorry, I didn't read the whole thing. Such as chicory and romaine lettuce. Is romaine lettuce a bitter? I guess. I'm asking, by the way. I'm not saying I'm against what anybody said. I don't know. I'm learning. I guess it is. Yeah, I don't know. But we can make sure that we have something like that on there. Okay, but you can Google it. Google is always somewhat dangerous because it's especially if you look at the AI portion that they have now. The Google AI is not that great in comparison to ChatGPT and some of the other stuff that persons are using. If you're somebody who's into AI, it's not, the quality is not the same. That being said, is there celery is a bitter? Okay, so but I feel like if you're in the ballpark, Sister Angela, of like the thyme, rosemary, basil, endive, parsley, radishes, arugula. I think like if you're in that ballpark, dandelion, definitely. That's a favorite of mine. Just in general, not even for Passover. I like to mix it in even with pasta. Now it's not the season for pasta, but when pasta is seasonable or within season again, so to speak, there's a lot of stuff there. So but hopefully that helps. But I can try and make sure, but we have this kind of floating around. You should see this pop up through emails as well too. We're trying to get back to that, to making sure that we're emailing out the newsletters as much as possible. That's a little more difficult because there's so many of you all. And even when I try to set you guys up in the system automatically, the system freaks out on me a little bit. And it says you must be like a corporation because we got so many persons we send it to. But we'll try to send that out to everybody one more again. Right? Sister Mignon was saying celery is part of that too. I guess we could put celery on that list, but I'll try to make sure that we have it in different places, easy for you. But especially look on the community page on YouTube. If you are part of the YouTube channel, or if you have get notifications. If you know the YouTube channel, just go #find Kofi YouTube channel, and eventually you'll see the community portion. I'm not sure. I think if it's not to you guys, it should be to you guys, or it should at least be posting if it hasn't already. Sometimes it takes a while for stuff to post. But I thought I had posted it, but I'll double check. If you're saying that it's not, then I'll double check. It might mean that I just need to redo it again. Also, signal out here has been an issue. We've been on the road for a while, so signal wise, it's been a little difficult sometimes to get you guys what we're supposed to. So forgive me for that. But great questions. So we'll try to make sure that we have that stuff up for you all. You Googled those, okay? So, but yeah, I forget where we were going, beloved. What were we talking? I think we started talking about lamb. Oh yeah, we were just talking about the pieces of everything, right? So the lamb, the bitter herbs, the matzah, matzah zavach, or what we call matzah. Bread, matzah, by the way, just means unleavened. Doesn't even mean bread. We just know what matzah means. So if somebody, Baba Kisha, it's our pleasure. How you doing, Ronnie? If I didn't say so already. So if you see matzah, or matzah zavach, all it means is unleavened. So matzah bread, I guess if they're saying unleavened bread, but we know what in our culture matzah means unleavened. So we don't even. So if you ever see matzah zavach, etc., it's just saying unleavened. So even when we get to tomorrow is Passover, and then the next 7 days after that is the feast of unleavened bread. We don't even call it the feast of unleavened bread. We literally just call it matzah, right? Or matzah zavach in Paleo Hebrew. So matzah zavach. How you doing, Sister Monica? You getting on the plane? Yeah, you got to be getting on, right? You getting on the plane? Also, too, if you have a chance, I don't know, I was reaching out to you and those who are picking you up. If you haven't had a chance to, see if you can reach out to them. If you need me to send the number, let me know. But they said that they were going to reach out to you last night, so hopefully they were able to reach you. They said they were going to text you since it was so late. So feel free to reach out to them. And make sure, if you can, before you guys take off, if you can, make sure that you reach out. Oh, you are? Praise God. All right. I'm on. All right. I was like, I'm pretty sure they're going to get it without a hitch. Praise God. So that means everybody should be taken care of. Praise God. It's coming physically. So we're praying for you guys. MIT Raj and Sister Taylor and family, all the babies, praying for y'all to make it safely as well. Praise God. So probably even send a little prayer out to you all and put it in our group chat or whatever that we have for those that are coming. How you doing, Brother Vincent? Thank you for being on. I still don't know 100% where we're going after this. There's still a huge possibility we're coming up that way, so just kind of keep us in mind. Probably won't be leaving this area until the 13th or so. So those in Cali who are up a little further, up in Cali or whatever, just know it's still a strong possible. I feel like I'm playing spades. I got a strong possible. I can't guarantee the book, but the way that I play, I'm a usually get that book, especially I'll get you a weak possible. If it's a strong possible, I'm just telling you, just so that when we bet our books, we don't get, I don't want you to get set out here. I'm just telling you it's a strong possible, right? But it's still a strong possible. So those who are up there in that area or whatever, prayerfully we'll be able to make our way over there before we start coming back across and visiting everybody on the way back over to Georgia. By the way, that means also Georgiaites. I don't know what we call Georgians. Is that what we call Georgia folk? Hopefully we'll see you guys we'll have a few days where we'll be able to see you guys for something before we start making our way back up north and start getting ready for everybody to come in May for the meetup. Praise God. Hallelujah. How you doing, Brother Charlie? It's strong. Yeah, I'm on. You said you thought you were on schedule with y'all for Passover, but I thought since it's tomorrow, we start the evening before. Yeah, so we start 6 p.m. So Passover technically starts. Great question. Passover starts 6 p.m. New York time tomorrow. So Passover is from Friday 6 p.m. If you recall, it's the 14th day, right? So anyway, we start Friday 6 p.m. New York time. So our first day, it's actually so here's the way. We still got to do the special calendar thing for those who bought calendars. By the way, we got to do a special teaching of the calendar for you all. How you doing, Brother Charlie? If I didn't say so already. You said, when do we have the lamb? We're supposed to have our lamb pretty much by last night, but obviously, get it, as best you can or whatever. If you need help with it or whatever, let us know too. We'll see what we can do. We already got somebody that we're looking out for. But what was I going to say? Sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry, where was I at with what was the last question? Oh, on schedule. So as far as being on schedule, yeah. So here's the way that we do it. So where we did Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is our new year. So that was 10, 11 days ago or so. That was on March 29th. March 29th, we celebrated that at after 6 p.m. New York time. Well, 6 p.m. your time, but where I was, we look at 6 p.m. New York time or 6 p.m. whatever time you're on, and that's the beginning of your new year, right? The new moon, and also that month is the beginning of the new year, the beginning of spring. So once we got there to the beginning of spring, then we did from there to that starts your first day. So that was Saturday, 6 p.m. So that means Saturday is the first day, which means now Friday is the seventh day. So Saturday, the first day, starts at 6 p.m. evening to the rising, which means Friday. And if it's the 14th day, you just go by your 7, right? 7th day, so multiple of 7. 7 is the 7th day. 14th is the 7th day, right? 21st is the 21st day would be the 7th day to 28th. So if you go by Saturday being the first day, right, then you're going to have 4 weeks straight of Saturday being, or I'm sorry, your 7th day. You're going to have 4 weeks straight of your 7th day being, that 7th day, right? So if Saturday's the first day, Friday's the 7th day. So once again, Saturday, this is the second week of it. Saturday was our first day, right? At 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Saturday was our first day, right? And then that means Friday, starting 6 p.m. will be our 7th day. So you can always tell whenever the day is starting at 6 p.m., whatever day that is the first day, which means that now you can always tell if the calendar is correct, because then whatever day Passover is should automatically be the 7th day. It should be a multiple of 7, right? So we should be able to tell that. So for us, Saturday, March 29th was the beginning, 6 p.m. of our new year. So the 14th day of that year, or the 14th day of the first month, is however you want to look at it. It's supposed to be a multiple of 7, the 14th day, 7 times 2, the second week. So we know that if it's Saturday, then it should be Friday, 6 p.m. So we've celebrated Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Saturday, 6 p.m. New York time. So now, Saturday, 6 p.m., right? So now you have one more, so you get to the second set. So, boom. Yeah, Saturday, right? So then that means Friday is the 7th day, Saturday is the 8th day, and then Friday will be the 14th day, if that makes sense. Right, if that makes sense. Great question. Yeah, so we're on track. It's Friday. So the only reason why we're doing Passover Q A today is because I want to make sure that we have a jump on it. Right? I want to make sure that persons need to get stuff, or they need to buy something, or something needs. We have enough time to be able to get to where we need to get to, and make sure that stuff is there. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. You said Leviticus chapter 23, verse 5. Now, did you mean when do we have the lamb as far as ceremonially? Because when we have the lamb, basically we'll, especially if you're joining us virtually, We'll make that very clear. If you're not, you can serve the lamb whenever you see fit, but we're going to eat together. We're going to fellowship together. We're going to serve everybody together. So if you're joining us virtually, it'll be at 8 p.m. New York time when we start on Friday, which is tomorrow. So tomorrow, April 11th, we'll start the same time. So if you're serving, you just serve when I serve, and you'll serve what I serve. By the way, too, we didn't talk about this yet, but the wine, the Bible, and by the way, if you're a vegan, if you're vegetarian, feel free to do what you do. I'm just going to tell you, as far as the Bible says, this is the one day during the year you should probably consider breaking the vegan or vegetarian decree. It's supposed to have lamb. Thank you, Sister Marie. Right? You're supposed to have lamb. So just letting you know, persons asked me about that too. Once again, I get it. I'm not, I've never, even when I was doing vegan and doing pretty well at one point in life, praise God, I was never truly vegan. I would do 13 days, and every 14th day I would allow myself to have meat, and then I would go back to the other 13 days just not having any kind of, not just meat, but being vegan. So I did do that for a bit, but so I do comprehend, I do understand. But as far as Passover, the commandment is lamb, or once again it can be the kid or the baby goat, right? But it is supposed to be lamb. It's 8. Just making it. I know this person. We even have put out recipes for vegan stuff. If you look up this stuff, we've been doing this for a little while. So if you look up around Passover, or just type in on our channel and look in the search engine Passover, or maybe Passover food or something like that, Passover recipes, whatever the case might be, you'll find that we have a bunch of stuff that's listed. By the way, if you're looking in times past, there is one video that I have to warn you about from us. It's not because it doesn't exist, but it's because of I forget what it's called. It's some kind of Passover bread, or what kind of, it's a scripture that's attached to it. Is Ezekiel something bread? What is it? Ezekiel 11 bread? Ezekiel something bread? They make it, and they say that it's supposed to be something you can use for Passover, but it's not, because a lot of the places, because we were telling persons you could just buy it. So you buy it at Giant, you do this. And then it's one of those things that we got caught up because apparently the ingredients now, maybe always did, but at least now the ingredients seem to have leaven, and so we can't use it. So it's called Ezekiel something bread. So we do have that in one of our videos. I probably need to just take it down or redo the video at some point. But if you do catch that video, I think that video is still up. So be careful. It's like Ezekiel 11 bread or something like that. You said correct? Okay, so whatever it is, be careful with that. They say that it's something that you can use. It has leaven in it. So we were telling persons, go on the shelf, and then we caught it. I forget, I think it might have been Elder Select Tamara or somebody that caught it, and they were like, no, you can't do that. So everything else in that video is okay, but that Ezekiel whatever bread, maybe if you want to try it some other time outside of Passover, feel free, or outside the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? But you can't do that. Should you begin to roast the lamb? No. So really, this is Shabbat, and really, a lot of our, really every holy day should be treated as Shabbat. But there's different types of Shabbats too. We've discussed that in our Shabbat series we did at the end of the year. So that's on wax. That's recorded on YouTube and other platforms as well, Facebook, podcasts. However, we should treat it like Shabbat. So as much as it's possible, if you can, your lamb should be prepared prior to 6 p.m. Now, I know certain persons are working and stuff. This is why, once again, land for your captivity. And also, you should probably try to figure out in advance when you know the holy days and dates. Try to see if you can get time off, or at least leave early on certain days. But technically, your lamb should be finished, right? We should be trying our best to rest as much as possible. Now, this is obviously a different type of Shabbat, where the rest is a little different. We still are eating together. They will still be serving the food and stuff like that, right? More in your work and your occupation, because the rest is really, remember, if you recall, the rest that it says is that Yah really rested when it says he rested from his work. That word work, even in Genesis chapter 2, it's talking about he rested from his occupation. As you recall, Adam was created and had been put in the occupation of Yah. Let us make man inside of our image after our likeness, and then eventually this man, Adam, his name means man, he'll be put in that occupation. So our goal is to make sure that we are outside of our that you're resting from your occupation. There's something, right? But that's not necessarily the same thing as what we consider to be your job or your toil or even your work, right? But we use the term. It's really difficult. That's why I say you got to get into etymology, because even when we're talking about works and all that stuff, we have to recognize that, like, a lot of times when we're using these words, we're using like a lot of modern thought process on it, and it's not necessarily correct as far as correct thought process. So just be careful. Be careful with that. But yeah, so the Ezekiel bread that they make, though, going back to that real quick, it is something that I guess at one point used to be made in a manner in which it was all right to eat, but especially now, I know like Jewel Osco's, Giants, I don't know if they have them in places like Sprouts or Ralph's or anything like that, Piggly Wigglies, all that stuff, Whole Foods. I don't know if they have any of that stuff there, but just know that that bread is not usable. So if you see a video and it has that in there from us, I apologize. It needs to be either taken down, or if there's a way to get rid of a part of it, then I'll work on doing that. But if you see that, I'm letting you know that's a bad teaching. A bad teaching that we want you to know. So, but yeah, if you look up different things on there, we do have different things that say what it is, different things that we use, different lists already. Going back to, I think now 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. There's a bread called Ezekiel bread. It's like Ezekiel 4:9 or something like that, or Ezekiel 11 or Ezekiel something, but it's called Ezekiel. If you were to Google Ezekiel bread, or maybe even Ezekiel bread for Passover or something like that, you'll see it. But now there might be two different types. Somebody brought that to my attention, that there are two different types of it or something in certain stores and locations. One has leaven and one doesn't. I don't know. Okay, Ezekiel 4:9, thank you. So Ezekiel 4:9, thank you, Sister Sage, as well. So Ezekiel 4:9 bread, it's what it's called. But when you go get it from the store, it's got leaven in it, a lot of it. So if you look at the ingredients and it doesn't say, but you can tell pretty easily if the bread has leaven in it, right? For the most part. But just look, and be careful. By the way, even in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, be careful about reading, what you get. There's leaven in toothpaste. There's leaven in chips. I'm going a little outside of Passover here, but there's leaven in chips. There's leaven in toothpaste. There's leaven in, not all, right? You have to look, right? But there's leaven in a lot of stuff. I believe there's leaven sometimes in deodorant. Different types of deodorant. There's leaven in a few different things. So you have to be careful what it is. Even including in your drinks, by the way. So those of you who are going to be drinking alcohol or juice sometimes, be careful about, there's leaven in that. So those of you who are having certain types of wine, right, you might want to be careful about that there is leaven, So, baking soda, different types of flour, what is it? Help me out in the chat. Is it all-purpose flour? Is the one that you should use or the one you shouldn't use? You can see I don't be cooking like that. Is it all-purpose flour? It's well, if you want to, once again, I know I'm talking about something that's Jewish versus something we're trying to do, but if when in doubt, I guess try to see if it's kosher, right? So all-purpose flour should not be used. Okay, thank you, Sister Judy. So all-purpose flour has leavening in it. So if you're gonna get flour, what's a safe one? Is there a safe one I can tell everybody? What about if you're staying in somebody's home? If you're staying in somebody's home, I guess you're doing the best you can, especially depending on the situation. I guess depending on the situation, you gotta do what you gotta do. I don't know all the details, nor I don't know if I need to know all the details, depending on what the situation is that would cause you to have to stay at somebody's home too, so. But yeah, I guess it depends. But if you're at somebody else's house, obviously, then you're kind of having to deal with something else. If they're willing to go through all that, then that's one thing. But if not, then so be it. Thank you for the love. You said most all-purpose flour added adds leavening. Okay. It says, okay, well, I don't know. I'm getting mixed things and mixed results. Read the back of your package. Look up what leaven comes up with on packages. Or if you're going shopping, I don't know if you guys have the app to do this. I don't, but I know there's the Google app that if you're using the Lender app store, excuse me, where you can actually take a picture of what you're looking up and you can actually Google stuff about it right away. You could possibly do that, or just literally look up products. Look up the products you're using and ask does it have leavening, right? And or ask if you can get the ingredients, because sometimes they put stuff in there as leaven, but they don't call it leaven. So you have to sometimes study what some of that is. But read the label on there, see if it's got leavening, see if it's got yeast, see if it's got this, that, whatever, certain things that cause things to rise. Yeah, chicken nuggets, the bread and stuff on chicken sometimes as well, fish sticks, stuff like that. So so there's stuff that has leaven. So just in general, leaven is so much. It's like pork. You know how you got to really look, like you can't take certain. If you're somebody that takes like gel caps, or if you're somebody who has something that's gelatin, if you're eating gummies that are supposed to be vitamin gummies, you have to be careful. A lot of that is pork. Some of it's beef gelatin though. So study, show thyself approved. And by the way, that gets dangerous too, because sometimes they mix and match. So sometimes they might want you to say, hey, go ahead and get this, because we don't necessarily do pork, but what they won't tell you is they don't do pork all the time. So you could have a gelatin thinking it's cool in a capsule, and then come to find out that capsule, or what you chew, that chewable that you get this month, they might be running low on stuff, or to save $1, they might decide to go ahead and use pork. So it gets it gets crazy, but pork, leavens, things that are anti-Israel, are things that they put in just about everything. So you got to be careful, especially in certain seasons. You got to be careful. And I don't know, it might be one of those things where you're not looking for it, but for me, it seems like, to be honest, it seems like when it's time for the leaven, it seems like they ramp up, like how much stuff, or time to remove the leaven, that's when they ramp it up. And it feels like, I don't know if it feels like that to anybody else. Once again, it could be because we don't look for it until then, but it be feeling like every year, I'm like, dang, like they weren't even, I didn't even know that they sold this. But this year, like now, for this 40 days, it seems like they just selling this and selling this and selling this. So, it's, and ultimately part of the process, the blessing in that is, remember, leaven represents sin. So part of the process is for us to start looking for this in the same manner that we start looking for leaven in what we eat physically. We should start looking for sin in what we eat spiritually. And if we're eating something that's sinful or misses the mark, we shouldn't partake. We shouldn't eat it. You said you can only take vegan prenatal vitamins because almost all the others have gelatin. Yeah. So you said, oh yeah, during unleavened bread, they're coming out with all snack cakes. Mm-hmm. By the way, it makes sense too that they be doing that. Be careful, because Ishtar is coming up. Easter's coming up. Not this weekend, but the following weekend, right? I believe on the 20th. Yeah, on the 20th. So Ishtar is coming up. So you got to be careful about that. That stuff as well. Yeah, it's a great time to eat, clean, not for Passover, but eat all fruits and vegetables, stuff like that. But for Passover, lamb, bitter herbs, matzah, and lamb, bitter herbs, matzah, and wine or juice. Now that one, even though it is totally fine to drink wine on Passover, part of a commandment, right? That we do so. That being said, for those who have problems, AA, stuff like that, I respect it. And, if you need to do juice that hasn't fermented yet, do what you need to do, until deliverance happens. I'm praying deliverance happens sooner than later. That being said, if it's something that you just don't believe that it's going to, you think it's going to open the door to something else, pray about it, think about it. But if you think it's going to open the door to something else, if you feel like you're protecting yourself, I get it. I empathize with it, right? My belief, my hope for you is that you are delivered from it to where, because deliverance doesn't mean that you can't ever partake of it all the time either. So deliverance is from the drunkenness. I'm not praying that you're delivered from wine. right? I'm praying you delivered from the drunkenness. So, so prayerfully, but if that's something that's an issue for you, make sure that you take care of business, so to speak, right? That's between you and Yah. I've never been somebody I've been to AA meetings, but I've never actually been somebody who literally was, and I'm not talking about, how you went to AA meetings. I actually, long story short, I ended up being, on the 4th floor of the hospital, if you will. I ended up losing my mind a little bit, so I had to, I had to go away for a couple of weeks. Life is life, and at a rate that I couldn't handle. So somebody suggested that I go in there. I went in there. Was having intrusive thoughts as well. Went in there, and during that, I experienced like 3 AA meetings while I was in. Because basically, you either that or you just kind of walking around looking at white walls all day. So I went in there to have something to do. I went to all the meetings actually, but I went in there to have something to do, and it was powerful. I think I've read a book since, the AA book. I know they're not supposed to give them to persons outside of the program, but I actually read through, I think, like the first 2-3 chapters. So I was very impressed with the stuff, and obviously it does get results. It helps persons a lot. It helps with accountability and things as well. But yeah. So you said, what is leaven? Oh, okay, it looks like I was just like Tamara might have got. But yeah, so leaven is stuff that causes bread to rise. Long story short, right? It can be in many different things. So, but leaven is what causes the bread to rise. Right. So anything that's basically causing bread to rise, leaven, yeast, things of that nature, we want to make sure. So that also means, by the way, that we're going back to a question that was asked earlier, if somebody says, well, what if I can't afford this? How can I still do Passover? Can I, supplement certain things or whatever? If somebody, instead of doing wine, that means you can't do, well, certain wines do have leaven. It's not that often, but there are certain wines that do have leaven. But also, too, that means for somebody who's trying to sneak maybe a beer in or something like that. Obviously, beer has yeast, right? At least as far as any beer I've ever seen or drank in my life. There's probably an exception to that, or there's probably somebody to be like, hey, there's a non-alcoholic beer or whatever. I'm just gonna be honest, back in my day when I was having beers like that, I don't know of one that I was drinking that didn't have yeast, right? Doesn't mean that there's not. I'm just saying as far as what I was drinking. So just to make that clear, you can't. If you're going to try to supplement something, you can't supplement something that's got, yeast or leaven or something like that. Come on. Alrighty. But we're still taking questions. It's Q&A. We're trying to focus on Passover mostly. You said frozen French fries gave 11 agents. The one. Oh, yeah. Gotta be careful with the French fries too. No Modelo. No Guinness, no Coronas. What's all the ones? No Bush, no Budweiser, Bud Light. What's that? Whatever is Miller Lite or Miller? Is that still a thing? I'm assuming it is. Doesn't seem like it's as big as it used to be. Is Miller Lite still a thing? Did that used to be a big thing? I don't know if I probably had a Miller Lite at some point, or a Miller. I don't even know if that's the thing anymore. Vegemite? I don't even know what that is. Can you explain to me what is Vegemite, or if I'm even saying it correctly? It's made from yeast. Okay. You said Miller's still out there? Okay, yeah. I don't even know. Okay, Vegemite. Okay, I'll look it up. I don't know if I don't even know if I know what that is. I'm learning something. It's yeast and vitamin B, quite salty. Yeast and vitamin B. Is it for medicinal purposes, or is it just you say with vitamin B, but is it for medicinal purposes? You say it's quite salty. Is it something that helps with hydration, or is it something that's... Oh, it's just part of every Australian breakfast? Interesting. Wow, okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that. Never had, or maybe I'll look it up one day. Vegemite. Vegemite. Try it one day, see? Never been out there. We got a few Australians that come on from time to time, so as you guys come on, you guys enlighten me about things from time to time, and you'll say something like, oh, I've never seen that one. Never heard that one. I used to be one of those ignorant cats about Australia altogether too. You guys have taught me a lot, you know. Only thing I really knew about Australia, to be honest, was about, you know, it being a prison camp and the takeover of Australian land and stuff like that. But I've never, you know, what I've seen in movies. And I guess, to be honest with you, I was ignorant enough to think that what's his face in the '80s. What was the '80s guy? What was his name? Is it Crocodile Dundee? That's all I knew. But I'll be honest, young, you know, young black boy, you know, in Brooklyn. That's all I knew. So I've learned a lot since then. But that was my knowledge of y'all from the '80s through the '90s. Then hit the 2000s. It's like I started traveling in the military and stuff. It was like, you know, I probably should learn more about other cultures and just to just sitting up here going off of what I get on television. Oh, your ancestors stole a cow, now you're here. Yeah. So, but yeah. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Like we said, you guys are in control. We still got about a little over an hour left before it's time for us to take our leave, and then we got to start getting ready to leave this place and go over to the next place and set up there, and then meet everybody later on who's coming in. Who's gonna make it this evening. We praise God. We're excited. We're gonna see you guys this evening. We're gonna sit down and break bread, and then hopefully, maybe, you know, don't forget, you guys were coming physically. You know, please feel free if you want to come out for live sessions and stuff like that. We got a little outside space and everything. We can sit down and speak on some stuff. Do something a little special during the season, you know, do some Q&A with you guys there, or, you know, just talk back and forth, make sure that we involve you guys, you know, who are on, maybe open up the line some. I brought a big old speaker with me, so hopefully we have a connection point where I need it to be where we can hear it, but I brought a big speaker with me, so, you know, we do live sessions and stuff, you know, persons can call in on different platforms and stuff, and, you know, and go ahead and make their requests made known type thing. We are trying to make it to Texas. That's something we have on the schedule. I feel like it's around April 20th, somewhere in that ballpark, but I have to look. And I know it might be the next week, like the next. So April 20th is Ishtar, right? So I think it might be the next week after that, like the following weekend, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we might be there. So that's what we're looking at. Now, it's going to be wherever we can, because we're going to be in an RV. So it has to be somewhere where our RV can be parked. So y'all might have to come meet us somewhere. Everybody, you know, we will be there a few days. I think one of the days we might have to do some business. We might actually have a business opportunity that might help with some stuff, partnership and stuff, and help to subsidize some things so that we can start funding some more stuff into land project stuff. But so that might be something that's there, or partnership or something. But we're looking at, I believe it's that Thursday, Friday, Saturday following the 20th. So I don't know what date it is. Is that the 24th, 25th, 26th, something like that? I'm not sure if we'll be in the same place all those days, but everybody might have to come to where we are to make that work. We're still working out the meeting date for it with the person we're going to be in there, because there's four places that we kind of have persons in. I always forget the most northern place, but there's Fort Worth, Dallas, Houston. So we're definitely going to hit those, or somewhere where everybody from those places can converge. Illinois, I don't know if we're going to do Illinois on this part back, because we have to be back in Georgia by a certain time or a certain date. So if it depends. It depends. Like, there's a lot of ifs right now. There's a variable. We don't know where we're going for Feast of Unleavened Bread yet. So since there's a variable in that, it depends. If we are going to a certain place, if we don't go to a place that looks like so there's a heavy possible we're going somewhere, as I was saying earlier. If we do go to that place, and I'll make this quick so we get back to the Q&A. So if we end up going to a certain place, then we probably can't make it up north. But it doesn't mean we won't go there this year. Now that we have the RV, it doesn't mean we can't go there this year. It just means we won't make it on this trip, right? Because really, for a while, even once we finish the cross-country trip and come back, then in May we got to get back up north to make sure that we're there for Memorial Day meetup for everybody coming to DC for the Bible Museum. And then after that, we still have to go up north. Or maybe even before that, we might go up north, but we have to then go up north again to make sure that we hit Philly and possibly New York, New Jersey, maybe even Connecticut, since it's only about an hour away from New York, right? Might even go up to Connecticut for those of you who are up that way too. And we know some of you guys are going to said you're willing to come down and meet us. If we hit New York, New Jersey, you said you'd be willing to come down and see about us somewhere, but we have to go somewhere where we can, we're going to have everything will have to be centered around either the RV itself or where, we can park an RV. But even if we don't do it then, when we come back north, then we got to have a little bit of time at base camp, and then we might be able to then, I'm going to try and talk to Pastor Hamilton. We might try to go back up to the same place that we used in Detroit, and talk to Big Brother Thomas and stuff and see if maybe we can partner up and do something up there. And if so, then we can come, to the Midwest, if you will. We'll come up to Illinois and, then Illinois and Michigan, and might just be Illinois, Michigan, maybe Indianapolis, maybe. But probably Illinois, Michigan, that becomes, the next spot or place or whatever. There's a possibility of us hitting up Missouri, somewhere in Missouri for like a day, for like a couple hours. But there's a possibility there too. So there's a lot of possibles. There's a lot of variables moving. Those who make phone calls for us, and even you'll hear me make some announcements, we're going to try to make sure everybody's tuned in so that whatever we're doing, everybody will know, and everybody can move accordingly. So we'll try to, we're trying. It's been a couple years since we've been in a couple places. We were in, we went to Chicago for the men's meetup last year. So the men's meetup was actually, well, not in Chicago, it was the outskirts, 45 minutes from Chicago. So we actually did go to Illinois last year. We haven't been to Michigan, maybe not since 2022. I think we have, but it was not for SOC business. But yeah, we haven't done an SOC, any kind of meetup there since 2022. So it is about time. And there's a lot of persons that are up there that are faithful that come out. Y'all come out when we come to Michigan, when we come to Detroit. Y'all show up and show out. Y'all show up and show. What is it? Show up and show out. Show up and show off. I can't remember. But y'all, whatever it is, y'all do it. So, if we can, we want to make it a point to try and visit you guys and not leave you guys hanging. So there's a lot of variables, a lot of moving pieces, holy days, all that stuff, and now we're doing this year, especially too. If you notice, I haven't mentioned even too. We're going to be spending a lot more time than we have on the land. So even if we don't get a bunch of stuff going, or we're not in the black, per se, or whatever, we got to make sure the stuff is planted, and even seeds and stuff are being traded more and stuff like that to make sure that the land project is moving the way that it's supposed to. Okay. So we're looking at that, but all those are variables. There's a lot of different things that have happened, so there's no guarantee. The only one that I know right now is guaranteed is that we've been able to talk about it, meet about it, make sure that we know it's guaranteed is Houston area, or Houston, well, I'm about to say DMV, H-Town, Dallas, Fort Worth area. We'll probably be able to do something there. And there's a possibility of doing something in Georgia and then seeing persons on the way back up, and possibly like swinging through, Tennessee and stuff like that. Those are the main possibilities right now that we know for sure. That more than like, unless something happens that takes us off schedule, or an emergency or something happens, we know that we'll be hitting those places for sure. So, but we'll get more information. Anyways, sorry about that. I'm sitting up here giving announcements. Where were we at? Any other questions, comments, concerns, etc.? We lost some of y'all on YouTube. They're like, we ain't trying to be with you. We'll get back to the word. How you doing, Minister Yasai? So if there's any other questions, comments, or concerns, today we're just using it as a Q&A session for Passover. How you doing, Brother Omar? We're using it as a Q&A session for Passover. Oh, Marmite is similar to Vegemite? Okay. I never heard of either one. Okay. So Marmite is similar to Vegemite. All right, I'll keep that in mind. Any other questions, even if they're not Passover questions, I guess, since seems like we've been answering Passover questions. If there's something I said I was going to talk about and I never got back to, anything, you guys are in charge on Q&A there, so we'll go and flow however Holy Spirit leads you, whatever questions that you have. What is a cedar plate? So a cedar or you talking about like, so are you talking about, a cedar plate? Are we talking about, so I don't know, if we're talking about a cedar plate, like are we talking about the actual wood plate? Because there is like an actual cedar, like wood plate, or are we talking about a seder? Okay, seder, we're talking about like, so the Jewish version of Passover? Because if we're talking about that, so the seder, I guess a seder plate, I don't know if, now, I'll be honest with you, there is a such thing that they actually have called a seder plate. Okay, a seder plate. So, I think they spell it S-A-D-E-R. I'm not sure. But if you're talking about a seder plate, there are things that are slightly different about it. They do use lamb. Everything obviously is supposed to be what they would call kosher and all that, right? But they do use lamb. They do have, let me see, so they do use lamb. They will have, now, once again, I don't know if there's a physical plate that they use called a Seder plate. I don't know. But if you're talking about just the plating of what's on there, they do have lamb. They will have bitter herbs. Actually, there was a practice I stopped doing because I found that it was actually Jewish and not actually original. But they will actually, some places they'll dip the bitter herbs in vinegar to make it even more bitter, right? But once again, they're not coming from a context either that this is what Yahushua himself ate. So this is something that they've just kind of added on to their traditions, and not necessarily anything you'll find in the Tanakh or Torah. Oh, it is a physical plate. Okay, thank you. So I'm just being honest about that, right? So there will be stuff like that you'll see. It does vary. Like there's different sects, S-E-C-T-S. There's different sects that you'll find. So it does vary. So when somebody says, oh, the Seder, well, depending on where you go, just like if you go to different churches and you go to different assemblies, or you go to different, you're a Kojic versus a Baptist versus this, you'll see slight differences, but you'll still see the overall theme is all together at the same time. So this is not guaranteed to be seen everywhere. I can only go off of personal experience, and most of my personal experience is at I can't remember the name of it now. It's close to 8th Street in Northwest DC. I feel like it's it's like a couple blocks off of, not 7th Street, but like 6th, 5th Street, somewhere in there. Where there's a synagogue. And I sat down with them there, and I actually sat down. I want to say it was in Maryland, PG County or something like that. I want to say it was there in Maryland that sat down and saw that, or partook in a Seder as well. I can't recall, but there's places too where they do. Now I don't remember exactly. There's something that they do with like an egg on top, and things of that nature, some places. But yeah, so there could be different. Now I know there's other variances that I'm just not aware of, to be honest with you, not aware enough to even speak on, even if I have slight memory of some of it, but if I can't recall it all the way, I'm not going to misrepresent, because that's not fair. But yeah, so there can be different things on the plate for Seder, and also Seder is looked at usually a little different because there are different sects of Judaism where they do believe that the Messiah has come. I'm not just talking about only Messianic Jews, right? But I'm talking about even those who, there are persons who believe their own Messiah has come, right? Like what was that, Lev Tehor or Lev Horde or something like that. There was that group that's kind of infamous for, and still is around, but they moved to a bunch of places and they were, they were basically trafficking without calling it that. Now, to be fair, they believe in marriage and stuff, but they were doing, basically trading, kind of doing the Mormon thing, not just with multiple wives, but even with like doing the trading as far as these young girls that are way too young to be even be thinking about any kind of marriage and stuff like that, being married off to old men and stuff like that or whatever, and trading stuff. So, there's different versions of it too, where that's the most extreme version, but there are versions or persons who believe that there are put it like this. I don't want to speak off. I don't want to misrepresent anybody. So even if we disagree with a certain person, whatever, we shouldn't misrepresent anybody. So yeah, some have egg on the plate. So, and I don't recall where the egg comes from. I think it's more Talmudic than anything else. And that part of Talmud, I don't remember or recall. So there are different messiahs that some groups believe have come. So it takes on a different thought process as well. And that's even if they believe he's come on Passover. Not all of them even believe that. But for the most part, if you're looking at a Seder is not dealing with the Messiah and that part of it too. So the Seder has a different meaning and a different mindset, right? Well, so I was going to say that. I'm not sure. I don't have the evidence in my brain right now. Doesn't mean that it's not there. From what I have researched, I do recall the egg is supposed to be connected to the whole rabbit thing, but I'm not 100% sure. And since I don't recall where I got it from, I don't want to speak it as, oh yeah, it comes from something that I read in a book, or it could have been a video I watched one time or whatever. So I want to be careful, because I like to have like at least 2-3 witnesses, at least have a few sources that are reputable, not even by Western society, but just in general. And even a lot of times, to be honest too, like when it comes to Lilith and stuff like that, things that actually come out of the Jewish society that they actually came up with, and even will tell you that it's not even something that's real, or it's something that they made up, or it's a fable or something like that. They'll actually tell you. They'll actually say, hey, this is something that's not even a truth. This is something that's like a fable. We look at it as a fable more so than we look at it as a truth. So you can usually find in their culture, somebody will tell you, this is why we did thus and such. Like, to be honest, even be fair, Roman Catholic Church. A lot of us are like, oh, the Roman Catholic Church is messed up, this, that, it's ate up, it's jacked up, blah, blah. But with the Roman Catholic Church, they'll, even if they're way off, if you look up their stuff, they'll usually tell you, this is why we do this, this is why we do that. And you can actually read it for yourself and go, oh, okay. Like, they'll actually tell you, even if it's not biblical, they'll tell you, we had a pope, he decided, boom, boom, from this point on, we do yada, yada, yada. Oh, okay, cool. Like, it's not cool, but at least like you want them to tell me it's made up. So to be fair, you can usually find, if you just do some quick research, you can usually find a book or PDF file, or I'm not talking about what now PDF file has become. I mean an actual PDF file, right? And you can actually look up somewhere and find out, and they'll tell you, yeah, this is Rabbi so and so, and this year did blah blah whatever, and they'll tell you that's why we actually did it. Yeah, I got to make a distinction just to say, because especially for the youth, if I say PDF file around my son, it's become such that Kendrick Drake thing became such a big part of culture that you got to be careful about the stuff that you say nowadays. You said Orthodox means having faith or opinion, not our standard of culture. Well, that too, and depending on what your orthodoxy even is, right? But yeah, so as far as my personal knowledge and my personal being invited to Seder's and doing some research and sitting down there and trying to learn, that was where I at least learned However, I'm going to do Passover. It's got to be cultural, and there are certain things that, I'll be honest, sitting down in the Seder, if you never had an opportunity to do Passover, whatever, now you have a chance to do one with us if you like. But if you end up at least seeing it, at least you'll see there are certain things that are there. But once again, like I said, the adding of the vinegar sometimes, or even they'll do something which I think is obviously not biblical, but I think it's actually a tradition that our people have. So one of the things that they do, which is very interesting, is they have some, not all, some have a tradition to where when it's Passover, they'll actually take they'll take a piece of bread or a piece of the matzah or pieces of it, and they'll hide it around. Now this kind of seems to me a lot very close to the Ishtar stuff with the Easter egg hunt, and so I'm a little leery of it. I don't have anything to prove that it's that, but I'm a little leery of it because it seems a little Ishtarish, Easterish, right? Easter egg hunt type thing. But that being, because there's a lot of mixing and matching of culture. That's why even mixing of iron and clay is Christianity. That doesn't mean that Christianity is the only people that mix and match, right? Judaism does a lot of that as well, right? They'll even do some stuff where they'll take some of the matzah and they'll hide it and they'll put it in different places, and have the children try to find it before they do the last thing. Because when you do a Passover meal, you're having the whole meal, and then you save the last bit of bread and the last bit of wine to be kind of like dessert, and then you pass it. And then when we do it, we would pass it around and break it, and that's what we would have done even before Christ. But when Christ then did it at the end, he said, "Now this is my body," and he said, "Now this is my blood. Represents my body, represents my blood." Right? So these are the things that are, so there's some things that are a little different in there. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure where the egg comes from. I have really no clue outside of vinegar used to be used as wine. Some persons say that they use the vinegar in the wine kind of like a cheap way of being able to do both and not having to pay extra for the wine. And that might have started, several hundred years ago, possibly, or a few hundred years ago. We don't know. And once again, they don't believe the Messiah has come either, so Passover still has a different meaning for them. And it's always weird too, because to be honest, if somebody doesn't believe Mashiach has come, then it's always interesting because you should be doing sacrifices still. And their way to get around that is to say, well, we don't believe in, no, they say that it was barbaric, which means that basically you believe that what your faith was based off of was wrong. And so now you're trying to say that you're correcting what was wrong. But if you still don't believe the Messiah has come, then you're still waiting on somebody to come and make a sacrifice that makes all the other sacrifices not necessary. By the way, I say this often, I will say it again, that doesn't mean that you can't sacrifice. If you're going to do so, I would suggest that you make sure everything's on point, including your building of an altar, because a lot of you don't know that an altar shouldn't be altered. And if you don't know what I mean by that, you probably shouldn't do this at all anyways. But you can make a sacrifice, right? So you can do so. It's just, what would be the point if Yahashua himself has already made a sacrifice that's greater than any animal sacrifice, right? So even when we talk about obeying laws and stuff like that, because sometimes persons will ask, well, if it's about obeying the law, then why aren't you still doing sacrifices? Well, the sacrifice of Yahashua, every sacrifice that was given was about the innocence of a particular sin. But no animal could take on the sacrifices of all men, because no animal was a man, right? But then when Yahashua comes as the second Adam, right, which is basically calling him the second man, right, as in a perfect man, and he obeys everything, and he became the sacrifice, he could take on all sins of all men. Only animals can take on sins of men, but only a sin of man. Right? A turtle dove could take on a certain type of sin. Right? We went over this even recently, if you recall, when we were going through stuff in Genesis, and it talked about Abraham's sacrifice, and it talked about the she goats. Was it the she goat or something? She goat, I believe, and you had the turtle dove, and you had a pigeon, and you had a ram, and something else, I forget, was it a donkey? Or something else. But you had 5 different ones, and when you go through them, you'll see that like one represented love, and one represented law, one represented coming back into and stuff like that. But that was he made a specific sacrifice where he was asking specific things. So he had to make sure it was bull. Thank you, bull. Yeah. So not a donkey, a bull. So, and when he makes those, every single sacrifice means something specific, right? You don't just give a sacrifice of a heifer if you need a red heifer. There's actually a reason to give a sacrifice of a red heifer. And a heifer doesn't just mean a cow, right? So you have to actually figure out what a heifer is, right? Because a cow is not the type of one. So each sacrifice required a specific animal, So Yahashua came, he's the second Adam, so he's the second perfect man. Therefore, he can, as long as he is perfect and following the law, he can be a perfect sacrifice, right? And therefore cover the sins of all. If that makes sense. Can only drink blackberry wine. For Passover, I mean, I can see that being safe. I mean, it's not necessarily so, but I mean, it's kind of become tradition. I don't know, to be honest with you, Sister Beck, let me look that one up a little bit more. Because I feel like there's something missing in the explanation. I just don't know what it is. So let me be careful about answering that one just for a sec. Okay, hold on one second. Can somebody put that in the chat for me? I'm having a little bit of signal issue out here, so I can't really use my MacBook. But can somebody put that in the chat? Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 5. Now, usually I would want to know the verses before it and after it. Now, I know Leviticus 23, we're talking about law. And we're talking about holy days, right? Leviticus 22, Leviticus 23. But can somebody put that in the chat if you don't mind? It's better probably if it's put on in YouTube, or somebody can help me out. Leviticus 23 verse 5. Can somebody type it out for me if you can? If you can't, I understand too. In the 14th day of the first month, Eddie. Oh, okay. So you were saying it speaks to you about spring equinox. I mean, yeah. So thank you, Elder Select Hammer. So I'm not sure. So when you're saying it speaks to you about spring equinox, as far as how, so we're saying just it shows that Passover should be in the spring, or I'm not sure if you're making a statement or a question. I just want to make sure I'm faithful to what you're asking, bro. So hopefully I'm not trying to be any kind of way. I hope it's not taken that way. I just want to make sure that I'm on point with what you're asking. But as far as I guess you would say it's in the spring, yeah, because it's Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So that's the first day of the year, and then after that, you have you start counting days. Passover should be the 14th day, so it should be right in the spring. So this year for us, that would mark March 29th. March 29th, you go 14th day. That's April 11th. That's how we got to April 11th, right? Because you have 11 days of April, and then you have 29, 30, 31. So 14 days. And on the 14th day, which should also be on a Friday to Saturday, since our first day of the year was on a Saturday to Sunday. So all that matches up. By the way, this is not called this in the Bible, right? It would just be a new moon. Well, actually, what I'm about to say is a new moon. A new moon is when basically the moon is just starting to come out, right? I actually refer to it like this with Solomon. I refer to the moon for Passover. It's a full moon. I call it a Passover moon. Right? If you do it properly on Passover, well, depending on where you are in the world, obviously, right? But for a lot of you in the United States of America, especially, and I believe those even in England should be pretty close to it, you should see a full moon tomorrow, or something very close to it, right? It's technically not the middle of the month off by a day, or maybe two, depending on, right? But you should see what in essence looks like a full moon. Alrighty. Yeah. So, yeah, but Passover or Passover is the 14th day of the month. And the new moon means that the moon is actually starting. Right? So if you're talking about a new moon, it means that it's actually just starting. Right? So if you look at that properly, you'll see that it's literally, it's just starting. And so if it's just starting, then it means that you should be able to see it just coming up, the sliver of it, right? So that was the first day of the year for us, 5786, and then when you start talking about when you start talking about the 14th day, that's toward the middle of the month. So that means that basically the way that the moon works for us when we try to tell where we are in the month, when the sliver first comes up, that's the beginning of the month. When it's full, right? That's the middle of the month, and then it goes back to where it disappears, and then when it starts coming back again, that's the next month. So basically, for most of us, your Passover, tomorrow, you should be able to see a full moon. So when I talk to Solomon about it, sometimes I describe it as a Passover moon, a way of letting him know, like, instead of us always thinking about things through other person's culture and stuff like that, he can look at it through our prism. So, that's not an SOC doctrinal thing, by the way. It's not a biblical thing. I'm just saying, I think of every first full moon, if you will, of the year, I always think of it as a Passover moon, right? So I'm not saying that means it has to be any colors, any different things like that, et cetera, et cetera. Right? I'm just saying that's how I like to discuss it with him. It makes it a little special for us when we see it. But yeah, so we noticed last night that the moon is somewhat full. You said, but that's why I'm asking, just trying to get understanding. I'm not sure, what the 14-day plus part means, but the 14th day, so like everything after that. So some persons also too try to say that Passover is 8 days. There's even some Jewish persons that try to say that as well, but that's not biblical. Passover is a day, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread is 7 days. And it persons try to do it like that too because it makes sense if you're trying to do what they do now. Judaism, that says that we have 7 days for Feast of Unleavened Bread, and then the 8th day is the last great day. But that's not biblical either. That's a cultural appropriated thing, I guess. That's been redone in somebody else's image. If you're actually looking at Feast of Tabernacles, is 8 days. First day to be treated like Shabbat, last day to be treated like Shabbat. What can we do if we don't have a lamb? Well, ram is, unless you're talking about a baby lamb, that's a ram, I guess. But the lamb, you can have lamb or goat, I guess. If you don't have lamb, if it's a thing, if you can't afford lamb, that's one thing. But if you can, you want to have lamb. That's the goal. Even if you have access to a baby goat, the goal is lamb, right? So the goal is to have the lamb. If you aren't able to get one, especially by tomorrow, it may be possible that we might have something to help. But if you can't do it, I was saying this earlier, there's two schools of thought. Somebody had asked this earlier. There's two schools of thoughts, basically. There's one that says you should probably, if you can't have it, you shouldn't try to have anything supplemented at all. And then there's another school of thought that basically says, well, if you can't afford it, maybe try to do, or if you don't have it even, maybe you should try beef instead, or this and that. By the way, too, this is part of, we say it's not just virtual, it's reality. Might be too soon or now to do this, but this is why at some point we want to get back to, hey, let's have some meetups. Let's meet up with each other. Let's actually, chop it up. It even says in the same scripture I was talking about where it says that the lamb has, or the everything for Passover must be burnt, right, as a sacrifice. Whatever you have shouldn't last until the day, when the sun rises in the same day for Passover. Also, too, it makes it a point to talk about that if Moses is told to tell the children of Israel, if they have too many, if somebody has a lamb but it's too much for you, or maybe you don't have lamb or something like that, make sure that you share it amongst houses, right? So make sure that you can share the blood on the doorpost. You can also make sure that if somebody's missing lamb, that you can give them lamb as well. So that's part of the way that you can look at it as well. But yeah, that there's a school of thought that goes, if you need to make sure everything's exactly the way Yah says, and if you can't do that, then just skip over that part or fast even or whatever. It's better to do that than to eat something that you shouldn't eat on that day. For that ceremony, there's another line of thought that says that you can replace it with something. You're doing the best you can in the land of your captivity. The goal is to keep getting back and back and back and back to it. So, I'll let you kind of go with that because neither one really we have. The only thing that it talks about is Passover as far as any kind of replacement is for the Passover day itself, right? To where it says that if you miss Passover, then the week after, so literally for us, you have the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and then on the 19th, we should have another, we call it a makeup Passover. We did it for the first time officially last year, but you should have a makeup Passover to where if somebody couldn't make it, or if you know somebody's going to make it again and you want to try to even like stand in the gap, you can kind of do a makeshift Passover, whatever, to kind of make up for it. But it's literally supposed to be by law a makeup one, so you don't try to use it as, okay, I'm not going to go, I got a family event, or I got a party, I'm going to be out of town, or I want to work and make some money, so I'm not going to do it, I'm going to do it next week. That's not how you're supposed to think about it. You're supposed to think about it as, okay, like, I'm going to do everything in my power to make it, but stuff happens. I might not, like, even think about it, families might come from countries all over the place to come back for Passover. Something can happen on the way to where, if you miss a couple days might be the difference between you being there on time and you being, an hour late or something like that, right? So if you miss it for some reason, or if, you could go ahead and make it up, basically. So even if you do miss it, even if you're like, oh, I don't have it, even if blah, blah, when we do the makeup Passover, which will be, to be honest, it'll be a little smaller than what this one is. That being said, the one tomorrow is, right? But that being said, if you miss, or if you're like, man, I don't have it this week, or I can't even get to the store, or I'm feeling real bad, I'm real sick, maybe you're in the hospital, you pray that you're not, and if you are, you get better, right? But there could be a plethora of things going on, right? And so to make sure that you still can participate and not have the soul cut off, as the Bible discusses, we are given an opportunity for Passover to have a make-up Passover. So, so that's how we look at that. All right, any other questions, comments, or concerns? I just saw some stuff that popped up on the text stream that I'm going to have to look into, but we still technically got another 20 minutes, and then I'm going to have to start getting some things ready and seeing if we can move in some things. Any other questions, comments, or concerns, even if it's not only Passover oriented? And thank you guys for helping out with that to make sure that we had some Q&A specific to Passover. By the way, join us tonight, 7 p.m. New York time, for a quick live session before we do our last 7 last words service this evening on Zoom. But join us. That being said, join us at 7 p.m. New York time for a live session. We'll talk about the wine, and we've been talking about how we're going to go about making sure everything's done. And we might really hit that hard tomorrow. I think tomorrow's live session is just going to be us talking about the order and the structure of Passover and stuff like that. A lot of it will be, I don't know if the whole thing will be, but a lot of it will be us making sure that we're really taking time out to talk about the order of it, the structure of it, who's serving, why are we doing this and that, or whatever, so that everybody kind of knows and has a little bit of a script in their head, so that when we get to the evening, everybody should be on the same page. So we will talk about that a little bit more. Right? How you doing, Ruth? Thanks for being part of the community, Larry. Yeah, best way to go about it, just to make sure everything lines up, is get kosher wine. If you can get it, if you have access to it. How you doing? Is it Mentoa, Israel? Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Sister Renee? I think I just saw the message, so I'm gonna get up on that in a couple minutes or a few minutes whenever we end. But okay, it doesn't look like we have any more questions, comments, or concerns. So thank you all for being on. Really appreciate you. Love you. Um, so we got to get stuff moving and make sure everybody is going to get here and everybody can be picked up and all that stuff on time. Keep everybody lifted up in prayer. Those of you who are coming in person for Passover, keep looking for that the text string rather that we have, and we'll make sure that we'll make sure that we're putting information in there for each person and everything that's happening. Um, for those who are coming in person, we're going to make it in time. I know there's some persons and stuff is changing up, but those that are going to make it in time, we ask for you guys, and I know some of you are going to be tired and stuff, and things might move around, so we'll try to schedule accordingly. But we have a dinner set up for the night at 6:30 p.m. New York time. So please, family, be ready for that at 6:30 p.m. New York time. I'm sorry, 6:30 p.m. Here, Sedona time. So if you can join us for that, be ready for that. And that shouldn't affect anything that's going on virtually. We should be finished with our 7 Last Words service tonight by 9 p.m. New York time, which means we should be finished by 6 p.m. Sedona time. So that shouldn't even affect, anything. We'll send you guys the information for the place, and we look forward to seeing you all ASAP. Yeah, I see. Yeah, or we might just have to maybe look at going to another place. We'll see. I'll try to talk to, because we had it set up. If we need to see about another place, so be it. Because you guys can still. Well, I don't know. If you're getting there at 4, and then you guys got to travel on the way over. Yeah, we'll see. But hopefully, and if not, so be it. We'll catch everybody tomorrow for for food and everything, anyways. Before we get ready, while we're getting ready for Passover. So hopefully everybody will have a great night, a great day, safe day of travel. Thank you all for being on. Appreciate love you all. Did I say Shalom, Sister Joy? If I didn't, please forgive me. I just realized I don't think I said anything to you. But thank you everybody for being on. We really appreciate you. We're thankful and grateful to you. Continue to do great things. Continue to move mountains. We're excited about what Yahweh is doing in your life, and we hope that Yah continues to move and grow you and your families. Thank you everybody. Thank you family. Blessings to you and to your family Tada. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A and D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We'll see you for the live 7 p.m. New York time. Look out for the calendar, or not the calendar, the newsletter to come out to everybody, and look in certain places that is already at Patreon. Look for some of that stuff to come in as well. And then at 8 p.m. New York time, we'll have the 7th word, the last word. Father, into thine hands I commend my spirit. And thank you to everybody who's been part of that. We've had an excellent time with that. Those have been recorded, by the way, audio versions only, but they've been recorded nevertheless. You can feel free to look those up. They are on YouTube, and I'll try to make sure once the playlist is ready to go that we put that in different spots for persons to look at as well. Also, too, we'll have a flyer out that if you want to use for everybody, you can, to invite them to Passover. Once again, the Zoom link is going to be something that we're not going to put out in public. So if you are part of SOC, or if you want to invite somebody, or you come into it or whatever, the Passover link, you need to make sure that you look in the Google Calendar invite for it tomorrow, or you need to make sure that you get it from me at some point. The ministerial staff, you guys should get it before then. You guys should get it the link tonight, and the persons who make phone calls, you should be able to get those links tonight. And of course, the secretary should get the link tonight as well. So if somebody does miss it or can't get it from me or whatever, you should be able to get it. But once again, we're trying to keep it to either SOC or persons who we know we can trust, because we've had a lot of weird stuff happening and weird behaviors happening. So, but thank you all. Tada. Love y'all to life. We hope that you guys take care. We will talk to you guys very soon. As always, it's been Pastor Kofi. Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, being a voice in the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember, as always, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, take care, family, and we will talk to you later.